Hi, my name is David and I'm going to do a review of my time teaching English to adults in China with EF, English First, Education First. So a little background with regards to me. I'm from the UK. I was previously in a public sector job which I'd done for almost 14 years. I was bored, I was fed up, I was disillusioned, I needed a change. I'd previously done Trinity TESOL. And so I decided it was now time for me to use it. I did a bit of research and China seemed to be the place to be in terms of salaries and opportunities, at least for first year ESL teachers anyway. And EF seemed like a credible company who would help me with an easy transition and ultimately help me get that year's continual teaching experience, which is what I wanted. So I applied online. The recruiter got back to me within about 24 hours. He offered me a Skype interview some 5 days later. Skype interview lasted about 45 minutes and he asked me a series of personality-based questions which were kind of indirectly related to teaching. I didn't prepare for the interview as well as I could have done or should have done. However, I was able to think on my feet and muddle through. And he offered me a job within about 24 hours, which I duly accepted. So the next phase was the visa application. I decided to do all the legwork myself, which turned out to be a false economy because it took me longer than it should have done and I was backclassed with EF, so I missed out on a couple of months of salary. So if I had to do it again, I would just pay a company to do the whole process for me. In terms of the recruiter at EF, he was okay. He was a little impersonable, he wouldn't always respond to my emails, and sometimes he made me feel like a bit of a number. But on the flip side, I asked for a city with a low cost of living and he got me Wuxi, so I was appreciative of that. So once I got my Z visa in my passport, I booked my flights to Shanghai. Arrived in Shanghai, picked up at the airport, taken to a very comfortable hotel. Spent the night in the hotel. Also, there were around 40 other teachers from English-speaking countries. And the following day we were picked up and we were all taken to EF headquarters where we started a week of onboarding. So EF headquarters, pretty centrally located in Shanghai, gorgeous building, decked out in all the EF decor with the faux concrete floors and glass walls. Stunning building, really nice place to spend a week. There we started the documentation process. We were given SIM cards, we were given bank accounts. We had a week's worth of seminars on things like integration into China. I think I recall maybe like teaching methodologies. EF took us all out for a meal. We were really well looked after. I really enjoyed that week. I really enjoyed integrating with the other teachers and hearing their stories. And Shanghai as a city itself is a really cool place to be. So good memories. It's also worth pointing out as well that with EF, we started to get paid the day we started the onboarding, which was essentially the day after we arrived in China. So after a week of onboarding, the teachers who were teaching adults went off to our respective centres, and I think the teachers who were teaching children stayed for extra training. I'd been in constant dialogue with my centre manager throughout, and she purchased me bullet train tickets to go from Shanghai to Wuxi. She met me at the train station, and EF put me up in another very comfortable hotel. I then spent 2 days in my centre. And what I recall from those 2 days, I was basically given some familiarisation tasks and some teacher observations. And I recall I was reimbursed for the cost of my visa and the cost of my flights as well. And then after those 2 days, I was then given 5 days off, and within those 5 days, I had to basically find an apartment, register at the police station and do all the other miscellaneous things that you need to do to settle in the first instance. But my centre helped me with that. They put me in touch with a local agent called Lily, a lovely lady, and she helped me find a studio apartment, which was a short walk to work, where I was very happy, very comfortable. And I've previously done a video with regard to that, so you should check that out. Yes, I was very happy with that downtown apartment, aside from losing my deposit, which is another story altogether. It was, nice place to live, nice place to spend a year. So after those 5 days, I then returned to centre. And yeah, I suppose the real work started. I was given my own timetable. I was co-teaching again. I was team teaching and then teaching independently within about 3 days. The lessons at EF are communicative and task-based. The beauty of the training centre being is that you are given the PPT, you just need to just plan and prepare accordingly. I generally found with the lessons it was a case of setting the context, kind of like facilitating the conversation, applying gentle correction if required, and just plenty of student talk time. The language itself is kind of functional English, and most lessons will have key vocabulary with a grammar point. I tended to avoid complex grammar explanations, and I think the company would prefer you to kind of encourage the students to notice through kind of like a guided discovery. Other duties included oral placement testing for students, online feedback for face-to-face lessons only, which are only up to 6 students. Yeah, it's also worth highlighting that EF is a sales environment, so as foreign teachers we would have to assist in that. So yeah, things like demonstration lessons for prospective students. And we also used to have regular themed parties, again for prospective students to come in and get a feel for the EF brand. And as the foreign face, we would have to host those parties. But yeah, they were a lot of fun. Also as well, within the first 2 months, I think it was, we had to go to headquarters to do a CELTA regulated teacher knowledge test. Not the most difficult test in the world, and yeah, if I can pass it, anyone can pass it. So in terms of the culture and the environment, I was in a centre called the Yunfuan Centre. It was a high-rise building, 22nd floor, gorgeous panoramic view, again decked out in the EF decor with the faux concrete and the glass walls. We had fresh coffee on tap, which wasn't to everybody's taste, but I really liked it. And yeah, given the working environment I'd been used to, for me it was a really nice place to be. I quickly realised as one of the in-class teachers that we were just a cog in the wheel in the many ways in which students would learn at the centre. For example, they would have your classes, but they would also use the online self-learning platform and even have online lessons with teachers all over the world. And EF also has countless events going on where an English-only environment is encouraged. In terms of the students, yeah, they were mainly adult professionals. Many of them spend a lot of time and money at EF, and yeah, generally very hard-working people. I found for many of them, we were possibly their first experience of communicating directly with a foreigner. So again, many of them were genuinely inquisitive and genuinely interested in us, which was obviously reciprocated. So in general, I found that to be a very cool dynamic. As I mentioned, EF has a lot of events going on, and many of them are centered around the Life Club theme. I was fortunate enough to go on day trips playing tennis, horseback riding, to name but a few. But probably the highlight of my time with EF, and probably the highlight of my time in China, was a trip up to Harbin. Harbin being up in the northeast of China, -25 in winter, and we went up with some students for the ice festival. And yeah, we climbed mountains, went skiing, visited some awesome places, and yeah, probably the most culturally rich experience I've had in China. And I feel very fortunate to have gone and spent it with such awesome people. Another event of note was the annual regional awards, where hundreds of employees from across the region all got together. Big glitzy and glamorous event. We were fed, there were performances, music. Somehow I managed to win an award. I don't know how, but I did. But yeah, it was all part of the experience. So in terms of negativities, well, yeah, the salary is okay. You can definitely earn more money in China. But what I found was if you wanted to do side work, possibly teaching online or teaching privately, the timetable was restricting. For example, through the week, you will work until 9:30 in the evening, and then at the weekend, you will work until 6:30. So again, you're kind of restricted in terms of what you can do, but not restricted socially because it's China, there's always something going on. Another negative being the annual leave. You get 10 days, obviously the national holidays on top of that, but it's not really ideal. Something to take into consideration as well is when you leave EF at the end of your contract, they will not transfer your visa. So if you want to stay in China, it can cause complications. However, there are ways around it, but just something to consider. In terms of why I left, very simple. I wanted experience teaching children. I could have stayed within the company, but I wanted the school experience, and that's why I am where I am, currently in a very hot Shenzhen. So who is EF for? I think it depends on your motivations. If you're someone like me who just wanted to get that year's teaching experience and possibly wanted to be spoon-fed a little, then EF could be for you. Also, possibly if you want to take a year out from your job, like a sabbatical, or perhaps you've just graduated, again, EF could be for you. However, possibly not if you're a licensed teacher, because yeah, you can definitely earn more money elsewhere and your skills could possibly be put to better use elsewhere. Also, if travel is a big factor for you, again, you may want to consider something different because of the limited amount of leave you will get in comparison to the school environment where I am now, where I get a long winter and summer vacation. Yeah, so in conclusion, yeah, I mean, I love my time with EF. I gained the year's experience. It's where I cut my cloth as a teacher. It was generally a very positive experience. It's not perfect, but nothing is. You can expect to work hard, but personally, I found it extremely rewarding. EF as a company, personally, I felt I was treated very fairly. And again, as a company, it kind of works. It's a well-oiled machine. In terms of what I enjoyed the most, I would say it was the relationships I forged with my students. I generally found them to be awesome people, and I'm still friends with many of them today. So thanks for taking the time to watch the video. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. If you've had any similar experiences, please share them. Vice versa, if you've had any different experiences, please share them also. But thanks again, and take care. Bye-bye.